This is Desi, the first of 3 adult sun bears to arrive at the Clinic and Care Center of OFI, the Orangutan Foundation International, in Borneo, Indonesia. Desi is at least 15 years old. She was rescued from a nearby zoo by Dr. Barute Mary Gaudagas, founder of OFI, who purchased the zoo in 2007 in order to rescue all of its animals. But primarily Desi, who looks so sad and old, and was injured from a beating she had received at the zoo. This is Kevin, the second sun bear to arrive at the OFI Care Center. He was just a cub when he arrived, and he is now about 4 years old. He is strong and full of energy. And this is Hilda, confiscated by OFI in 2012 from a private owner who wanted to sell her for her bile. Hilda is a sweet and gentle bear. She is probably around 4 or 5 years old. When I first met Kevin, Desi, and Hilda, they were all in separate cages. They were well kept after, but suffered from the frustration of being alone with nothing to do all day. So the first thing I did was to put them together. First Desi with Hilda, then Hilda with Kevin. Kevin with Desi, and then all 3 together. Since Kevin had had a vasectomy, there was no risk of breeding. But sun bears are extremely active animals. In the wild, they are constantly on the move, night and day, covering large areas, always foraging, ripping logs apart, digging, climbing trees, running. They have an unquenchable need to be on the move. Confinement to a small space is torture for a sun bear. Even if life is a little better for Desi, Kevin, and Hilda now that they are together, they are still suffering from being locked in a relatively small cage. They desperately need space. Unfortunately, I cannot give them back their freedom in the forest where they belong. I've done it with sun bear cubs over the last 3 years, but it doesn't work with adults who spent all their life in captivity. They don't have the skills to readjust to life in the wild. It's too hard, too much of a change. A young cub like this one will follow you in the same way it would its mother, allowing you to accompany the cub for a year or 2, giving it supplementary food, protection, love, and time to adjust to life in the wild. But the adults will venture off far away, ignoring the rules of life in the forest. They'll get killed by resident sun bears protecting their own territory, or killed by people, or just die of starvation. It's hard enough for a cub to adapt to the wild. It's unfortunately near to impossible for an adult to do so. The best we can do for adult captive sun bears is give them an as large as possible forest enclosure to live in, like this one next to Balikpapan in Borneo. It's still captivity, but it's paradise compared to a cage. So this is what I want to do for Desi, Hilda, and Kevin. I've actually already begun the construction of the enclosure, and every day I let the bears know of the progress we are making. I've opted for a solid wall because I need to prevent the orangutans at the care centre from climbing into the enclosure, which will encompass the forest we see in the background, next to the care centre on OFI land. It will be about 1 hectare in size, but to begin with, I'm having this adjacent small enclosure built, which later will allow for the maintenance of the bigger one. There will also be a feeding quarter right here. I'm now on site, supervising the construction of the enclosure and managing all of the expenses. I can thus guarantee that every dollar is spent wisely. I have enough personal savings to cover the cost of this training enclosure and the feeding quarter, but I need your help to make the main enclosure. Any small amount will help in the completion of this project. Thank you for helping 3 wonderful sun bears to a better life.